Well, Norm Coleman is in bad shape. This week, Al Franken added even more votes. Norm Coleman exhausted more legal avenues. And he looks like he's on his last legs. But the Republicans keep pushing, saying, no, you got to keep fighting. They don't actually think he's going to win, but they want to delay the 59th senator from voting for as long as possible. So Mitch McConnell has been a very big advocate of Norm Coleman continuing to battle. He said, quote, "The court's decision in Minnesota ruling against the examination of thousands of contested ballots, which was against Norm Coleman, leaves no other choice but to continue the process to ensure that every legal vote is counted." All of a sudden, they care a lot about counting all the votes. Interesting. But what's interesting is that Mitch McConnell did not have those same beliefs in 2000. Really? Would never guessed. Here are some of the quotes of McConnell during the Al Gore fight. He said that it was time for Al Gore to be, quote, "a statesman and give it up." Okay? He said, quote, "enough is enough." And, quote, "where do the interests of the country begin and the interests of this campaign end?" Now that was 3 weeks into the recount of a national election that would decide who the President of the United States of America is. Only about 1 million times more important. And after 3 weeks, he was like, "come on, let's wrap it up already. When is this thing ever going to end, man? Be a statesman now." How long has this Norm Coleman and Al Franken thing been going on? About 6 months. 3 weeks, 6 months. Funny how Mitch McConnell changed his mind on that. Of course, oh, by the way, it doesn't just stop there. He, quote, denounced Gore's blatant attempt to steal this election, because they've been waiting 3 weeks to see which votes get counted. But Norm Coleman, he's not trying to steal the election. And he called Gore, quote, "the Tanya Harding of presidential politics." These guys are awesome. And finally, I got one more McConnell quote for you. There's an important responsibility for the loser to lose with grace. Indeed, Mitch. Indeed. Of course, he wasn't the only one. John Kyle, who is now advocating that Norm Coleman stay in the race forever, said this very similar things about Al Gore, that he was trying to back into the presidency. I don't see him saying that Norm Coleman's trying to back into the Senate. But my final favorite part of this is Norm Coleman himself. When he was in this election, not even about Al Gore and George Bush, when did he say it? When he was leading. Remember, in the beginning, Norm Coleman was leading. After the first count, Norm Coleman was up. And he said, when is Al Franken going to give this up? The votes have been counted, and he wants to drag this out through a legal process. And when is it ever going to be enough? That was like 6 days into the election. Now that he's losing, 6 months later, he's like, "I'm going all the way, man. I'm going to the Supreme Court. If it takes, I'm going to the International Criminal Court, the UN, something. I don't know. I'm going to try to keep it going forever." My guess is eventually he and all of his allies will finally run out of money, and then we'll say, all right. By the way, look, all throughout this whole process, for the whole 6 months, I've been absolutely consistent. We got to play it out. Every vote does need to be counted. We need to have the process work. I don't care if it was a Democrat or a Republican that wound up with more votes at the end or at any given time. I want to see this whole thing adjudicated properly. We have time. We don't need to panic. But now it has gotten to the point where I have to ask, not to wrap it up artificially, but, hey, the court system, what the hell's taken so long? I know the court system takes a while, but isn't this kind of an important thing? Couldn't we put a priority on this and get some decisions a little quicker? How long is this thing going to last? I'm not putting it on Coleman for fighting on his issues. I'm putting it on the court system. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Come on. Bounds of reason on this. Jesus.